Torpedo bats have been the talk of the baseball world and even the sports world in the first week of the MLB season, especially after the Yankees' record-breaking homers in their sweep of Milwaukee. Since then, we've heard from hitters all around the league why they've decided to start using them, but we haven't heard much from the pitchers about how they feel about them. So who better to ask than a former big league pitcher himself? He's thrown over 450 innings across 9 years with the Mets, Twins, and A's. He may be a zero-time All-Star like he likes to point out, but he did survive 2 seasons pitching for the Mets, which is deserving of an award, especially in the Frank the Tank era. So you can find his baseball content all over YouTube on the Trevor May baseball channel. I'd like to welcome on former MLB reliever, Trevor May. Trevor, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for that introduction. I couldn't have done better myself. I'm glad to be here. Excited to talk about it.
I appreciate that. Ken, before we get started, I can't help but ask, can we get a quick Frank the Tank Clubhouse Mets story? Is there anything there that you've got for us?
Yeah, I mean, people are aware of Frank. Everyone knows about him. Every time he's brought up or something, half the guys on the team will be like, don't listen to him, and the other half will laugh. So it basically is whoever's drawing his ire doesn't want to hear about it, and everyone else wants to laugh. So that's most of it. In terms of me and him and our interactions with each other, I have not been fortunate to hang out with Frank yet. We've been meaning to do something at some point, and I'm sure our paths will cross. I am in New York City quite often, but basically just through social media, where he lives. We had a little DM where I kind of poked some fun, kind of fake called him out on something. He thought I was being serious, and he was just like, "Hey man, I'm not mad at you," and and that meant a lot. It meant a lot to kind of keep it light, because it can seem pretty serious sometimes with both of us, frankly.
He gets after it. He's not afraid to get after it.
And it's not that he's not fired up and not upset, but he doesn't mean it in a malicious way, and I think that comes through. And so that was kind of I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of him. I don't think, like, as super fans go, every team's got him, but like the Mets, you would be hard pressed to find another team with a crew in the Frank the Tank category that is that passionate about their team.
No question, he's one of a kind. You'll have to go on a walk with Frank sometime soon. I'm sure you guys would be great on it. But to get into Torpedo bats, Trevor, I'm interested. So one of the narratives surrounding the Torpedo bats is that every advancement recently in baseball has helped the pitcher. So now the batter has finally something to combat that. How do you feel about that narrative?
I from a context of like advancement and like innovation, love it. I love that it's even an option, that bats are even something you can look at. I think it just kind of went overlooked because there was an assumption that the parameters and the rules around bats were super strict, but they're actually not as strict as you would think. I like it. This is the same like with the direct, pitching machine. I think that's an interesting thing, that's a tool that people can use. It doesn't give you a full advantage because you can't see hand position and certain things you need to see, or deception, but it does go a long way. So I just think it's in that vein. And if I were still pitching, I know I would have initially been one of the people who were frustrated and annoyed by it, just because it was something that I'm going to have to make a probably pretty big adjustment to, because it's going to change how somebody hits or is successful quickly, and then that could end up hurting me. And it feels like you're getting ambushed by it a little bit. And it kind of similarly to the way the pitch clock really bothered a lot of people, myself included, because it was a big adjustment to make really quickly. But I think it's just another thing that's out there for evening the playing field, and it takes a little skill to learn how you want to change your bat. Like, it's going to take effort out of hitters. They're going to have to get opinions. They're going to have to do testing. They're going to have to do a lot of stuff. And if you're willing to do all those things to get better, then there's nothing I can say. You should go up there and you should have the best tools to put you in a position to be successful. I mean, hey, maybe it'll help them just not need to change the rules to get more offense. Maybe the hitters themselves can take over that drive that car.
So if you were sitting out in the Brewers bullpen Saturday afternoon in the Bronx, watching the Yankees hit 9 homers to break their single-game franchise record, would you have been more like Trevor McGill, who said, it's the Yankees, so MLB is going to let it slide? Or would you have been more like Pat Murphy, the manager, saying, it's the magician, not the wand?
Yeah, I think that I would be more like Pat Murphy. I would be like Trevor McGill in the bullpen with the guy. Like I
Sure.
would totally be like, guys, you should be frustrated. We're also getting our face beat in, so I totally get it. Those type of games too, especially because he's the closer. You just kind of watch all your buddies. It's like they're walking the plank over a shark tank, and every single one of them fell in, and then you got to go out there. Like it's not fun. I've had my own experiences with this with the Yankees. I've seen some crazy games where it was just back and forth the whole time. You're like, I'll stay out of this one, and there were no torpedo bats then. So I just think it just so happens that Michael Kay pointed this thing out. It was a very cool and interesting thing to see on the broadcast. I was actually watching the game live. It was like, oh, I didn't know that. I got to talk about this. And then they hit like 7 more homers, and it just so happened that like those things are going to get connected. It makes sense, and they do have something to do with it, but I don't think it's cheating per se, especially because there's guys that used it all year last year. Francisco Lindor used one all year last year, and a lot of people don't know about that. And he had a great year. Did it help? Probably. Was it everything? No, it wasn't.
I can't help but ask, you mentioned being out in the Twins bullpen for a few crazy Yankee games. Were you out there for that 12-11 game where Aaron Hicks dove for that ball right in front of you guys, I think?
It was right in front of our bullpen, bases loaded, Max
Wow.
Kepler, right, left center, and it was 14-13 actually.
Yes, right. It was something high scoring. I remember
Like
that was
Sano took Britton
unbelievable.
deep, dead center. Yeah, it was blown. I think there was like 6 blown saves, so every
Something
reliever
like that.
blew the lead for like the last 3 innings of the
Max
game.
Kepler.
I fortunately was down that day, thank God.
Okay, gotcha. You weren't a part of.
I was not a part of that one.
Gotcha. So I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, but would you pitch differently to guys that use the torpedo bat? Like, would you want to know on the scouting report, oh, this guy's using one, this guy's not using one? Because would you just like kind of force feed them outside pitches or away pitches, knowing that the end of the bat now is a little skinnier?
That would be, I think, something you would naturally look at. But you're going to have to start getting, if you're going to go by statistics, right, or hot heat maps or whatever, those things are going to have to adjust over time. So that stinks. You're kind of going in blind. But yeah, at the end of the day, the goal of pitching outside of getting a miss is get it off the barrel. And the barrel's not bigger. It's just in a different place. And you can make decisions based on that. It just might take some time to figure out how swinging that bat changes where they hit it on the barrel. And maybe with that in mind, you might take some chances to try to get some stuff off the end of the bat as opposed to off the handle. There's still handle and there's still label in there. It's just you gotta figure out how that looks. And sometimes you just kind of gotta guess. And if you're wrong right away and you get hit around a while, and then you gotta figure out how to get your ERA down all year. That can be frustrating, especially for a reliever. So. That is definitely something I would pay attention to, and it would, getting stuff off the end, sweepers probably are going to be something that Anthony Volpe's going to get attacked with more. Last year it was kind of a death sentence to throw him one of those. Maybe that pitch opens up now. We'll see.
So if you could create the pitcher equivalent to what a torpedo bat is, what would it be? Would it even be as simple as just going back to the sticky stuff, or would it be, I don't know, changing the ball? Like, even if you had to fantasize something like that, what would the pitcher equivalent to a torpedo bat be?
I think the closest equivalent is some sort of sticky substance, because the same way that hitters are trying to hit the ball on the barrel, hit the ball hard, that is just kind of the name of the game now. The barrel's what handles that load, and if you're moving the barrel in order to get it to the place of the bat, you're hitting it constantly. That's kind of like putting sticky stuff on your hand in order to put pressure on the right finger to manipulate the ball. Like it's very, very similar in that way. I think sticky stuff is even still more of an advantage because there's no like limit to the amount you can put on or how many times you can put on it. If there was like a structured way to do it, I think it would even out in that way. But I think we've seen through data and through how pitching has gotten better that like pitchers just don't need that advantage. Like that's not a problem that needs to be solved. And hitters might need this problem solved a little bit more. They might need this innovation a little bit more in order to even, just as a fan of the game now, if I were playing, I'd be like, no, give us all the sticky stuff in the world. Like I know my opinion would be different, but as a viewer that wants to see, both things happen, both good pitching and both good hitting throughout a season, in the sake of evenness, if there was some like one type of substance you can have, or like whatever you go out there with is what you have, right? If it were something like that, I don't know how you police that. That's the big problem. But I think that'd be pretty close to the same thing.
You mentioned how guys like Francisco Lindor and like Jose Trevino has even said, I used this all last season, but it just is now becoming a topic of discussion because of how the Yankees did over the weekend. You retired at the end of 2023. Were you hearing rumblings of this at all at the end of that season or even maybe during the 2023 season?
I had no idea what a torpedo bat was until the other day. I never heard that term. I know that guys adjust their bats, and there was some tailoring of bats happening. I also know there's an insane number of guys who have used the same bat and they couldn't tell you why, just because it felt good. That's kind of what happens with baseball, frankly. We slowly but surely are phasing out decisions because things feel good, and having a purpose and a reasoning behind why they feel good is and bats just really haven't gotten a lot of scrutiny in that way yet. So now I think we're starting to get it in there, and it's going to be interesting to see if, like, how can gloves be slightly adjusted within the rules to like get to field a little bit better, or like an outfielder certainly needs a longer glove than another guy, because there's some wiggle room there as well, just for like little incremental improvements. I think we're just going to see a lot of that. I mean, you see guys with the sliding mitts super long just to get that little extra bit. Like, that makes sense to me. Just push the boundaries told to stop. So I was not surprised, but I'd never heard it being like that moniker being used until recently.
Trevor, thank you very much for coming on and giving us a pitcher's perspective on the torpedo bats and the biggest conversation in sports really right now.
Of course. My pleasure.